Welcome to Simply Caroline, a podcast dedicated to women empowerment where we will discuss a bunch of different subjects such as life, parenting, love, business, money, relationships, healing, recovery, addiction, entrepreneurship, and so much more. A podcast I'll do my best to keep simple, fun, and relatable and bring you tools to help you better your life. So thank you for being here. And here's your host, myself, Caroline Blanchard. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being with us again this week. I have a special guest, Chantal Landreville. How are you?
I'm great. It's so nice to be here.
Yes, so we're both from Montreal. You don't live here anymore, but you're originally
Sadly,
from here, right?
I am, and I still miss it.
Yes, I hear you. I hear you. It's a beautiful city, but it's quite beautiful where you are as well. But nothing is like home, right?
Nothing is like home. And the French spice, I'm not going to lie. So we're two French ladies speaking in English today.
Yes, yeah. Well, at least with you, I don't have an accent. We have
That's
the
true.
same accent. So there you
Exactly.
go. So Chantal, what are we talking about today? We're talking about your book that just launched. What's the title of your book?
Raise Your Love Signal, a guide to attracting and keeping the love of your life. Because at the end of the day, it's what we all want, right? We want to find love and we want to make sure that it sticks around.
Yes, and as everyone know, that's my strong subject, right? So let's
well,
talk
well,
about how did you come about writing that book? Like, where did the idea start? How did it come about?
so good question, and I'm gonna try to make this story as short as possible. so the foundation of the book started through my own personal journey. I was single for a little under 18 years, constantly struggling, not able to attract any emotional available partners, and I just couldn't figure out what the hell I was doing wrong. And through those years, the one thing that I'm thankful today that got me through these things is that I was very curious about just personal development, how human behavior, how the brain worked, and how everything interrelational was working. So I consumed and name it. I tried it. I attended it. A conference, speaker, experience, books. I went through it and I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. So the book is literally the best of everything I've learned in the last 20 years that I've applied and put into practice in my life to see the amazing results that I've gotten. And sorry, I think that the when COVID happened, as we were talking a little bit before our episode started, it was a COVID baby. I finally had the time to actually sit down and start creating or putting on paper everything I had in my mind. And I always knew I wanted to write a book. I just didn't know how it would actually show up. And funny enough, it's my first book I published, but it's the second of three, believe it or not.
Okay, so there's a third one coming.
Yes, well, I'm going to do number 2 of Raise Your Love Signal, which is literally being in the relationship and how to keep the fire burning in relationship. I think that's something that a lot of long-term relationships struggle with. It's like, how do we make this happen and just keep it spicy? So that's number 2. But number 3 was a book I started writing in 2018. So through my journey to trying to find love, I had decided I wanted to move to Europe. It was something I always wanted to do. And I didn't know where I wanted to live. So I had selected a few countries that I knew I wanted to explore. And on my mission too, I said, I'm going to meet the man of my dreams this summer. He's certainly not in Toronto. Not in Canada. And I did. Through that summer, I started kind of documenting what was happening, and I was getting a lot of messages through socials. Did you quit your job? Did you win the lottery? How did you manage to be able to do what you're doing? And for me, at that point, I was like, wow. people really think small, because for me it was, I made it happen. I asked, I had rented out my place, I had rented out my apartment to someone. I had researched, I wasn't staying in a five-star hotel the time of my journey. But I had made it happen, and it really made me realize how people think very small. And from the time I was very young, I was actually born in Ottawa and moved to Montreal when I was 17. I
Okay.
always knew that, we were told, go to school, go to university, find someone, get married, have kids, buy the white picket fence. And I never really believed in that mold. I was like, there's more, there's more, there's more. It's the curiosity, I think, that I'm very blessed that I've always nurtured. And that summer was the same thing. I was just like, I feel that there's more, and why wouldn't I give myself the opportunity, if I asked? And that's one of my sayings: ask. I have no shame in asking, because the worst that people can say is no. And if we don't take the time to ask for what we want, how will we know if we can actually have it? So I asked and I made it happen. So the book basically is called The Year I Did What I Wanted. And it kind of talks about taking chances and how you can make anything that you want possible to happen.
That's amazing. And you know what? I really want to point out one big thing you said: people dream small. And that's so true. I
Mhm.
see this in business, I see it in life, but we do dream small. Like, we'll only allow ourselves thinking about what's really possible. But that's not dreaming, that's just planning some
Correct.
goals. Like, when you want to dream,
Correct.
it has to be something that scares you almost, that you're like, oh my gosh, can it really happen? Can I do this? And
Yes.
that's like, and when you're there, you have to dream a little bigger. So I just, maybe someone needed to hear that today, but dream bigger.
Dream bigger.
Chantal, you went to Europe and you met the man of your life.
Well, what I thought was the man of my life.
What you thought? Okay.
Yes, it didn't end up working out, which you'll eventually have to read the book to find out what happened. But I will touch on this because we're going to talk about, obviously, love and relationships. But I realized through the journey and looking back today, I really fell in love with the fantasy. I
Mm,
really let myself get caught up in the fantasy. And one of the things that I talk about in the book, and that I'm really disrupting, I'm trying to disrupt people's mindset about love, dating, and relationship, is that we're really in love with the idea of being in love, because it's what we've been taught. It's like, think about, we've been so rom-com and Disneyfied about love. So we really are in love with that mindset versus understanding what does love actually mean. And that kind of love that we've been taught is not enough to sustain a long-term committed relationship.
mm.
So excuse me, I did, and I was teaching this stuff. I was like, I had studied it. So I'm taking the time to say it, because it's easy to get trapped into the fantasy where I just convinced myself he'll change. I ignored behaviors that I picked up were red flags. I went through all of it, the motion. And because I just was like, okay, it's my exit. I'm going to move to Europe. I'm moving to Portugal. I am going to be living on a farm. I'm going to be with a winemaker. Like, it was just like the perfect dream. Well, it didn't end up perfectly at all. But I think I look back today, and it was a great learning curve for me to talk about how I talk about it in the book, where if we really want to be in strong, healthy, deep connections with another partner, we need to really explore our relationship with love from a different perspective than everything we've been taught.
Well, I was going to say, you said you were, single for close to 18 years, and then, because I know that you're with the man of your life now. So let's
Yes.
let's jump to that. I'm gonna ask you, you're gonna say yes. We'll have this story soon. But point is, maybe you met this other person to fall in love, or have the impression you were falling in love, to get you back on track.
Yes.
That's the only thing that I'm thinking of. And to allow yourself to love again, or feel again, or be okay with even the idea of being in a relationship again. Because, I know that you were a very successful, you are, but you were in a different field, and you were very successful business wise. And
Yes.
I kind of see that a lot, and you're the expert, so you will tell us. But, a very successful woman that is single, it's almost harder sometimes to find someone, because it's almost like, or we intimidate people, or our standards are too high, and then again, I just said standards too high, and it's not true. Your standards are never too high. It's just you have to find the right person that will meet your
Correct.
standards, not
Correct.
lower your standards. But here
Exactly.
I go. I'm just like going on a rant right now. But point is, maybe that person just opened up everything for you to to make you realize, oh, it is possible that,
Yeah, and I love that you brought that point, and there's a lot that I'll touch on what you just said, because a lot of people, a lot of women that I work with are exactly who I was. Type A personality, very successful in business, self-reliant. I moved on my own when I was very young. I was just like, it was just me. I just had myself to take care of, and I just had myself to rely on. So not making a lot of room for a man to kind of be what a lot of men want to be at the end of the day, because it's part of their DNA. They're protectors, they're providers, and it doesn't have to do with financially at all. It's just making room to receive a relationship and open your heart, which I definitely didn't have that. So the beauty of things is, it's great to go through relationships that have failed or didn't service you, and be able to look back and say, what did I need to learn, or how did I need to grow from it? And that's how I actually looked back into everything that hadn't worked for me. And I'm actually writing another book about that. It's like how I got to Mr. Right, which are all the meaningful men that came in and out of my life, and how I was so convinced they were my guy. And I look back today and I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, the universe did me a massive favor, because it wouldn't have worked out one way or the other. But we love to convince ourselves otherwise, because, it's what we decide that we want at the time. So, yes, I do think that it brought me one step closer to the relationship. And I will say this, the fact that that happened, I will always remember. I'll share this story. I was devastated when things didn't work out. I isolated myself for 2 weeks in my house. And a girlfriend finally called me and said, enough. Like, you need to stop feeling sorry for yourself. You need to get out. And she invited me to a restaurant opening, and I was like, okay, I'll like put my nicest dress, lipstick, and I'll talk to anyone that has at least a great conversation. Because at this point, one of the things I had decided was more about personality than anything else. I just had decided I wanted different things. And I ended up talking to three men that I would never typically give the time of day to that night, that I would always say, I'm not attracted to this kind, and I'm not. And that night I left and I was like, whoa, I've just been limiting myself to what I think I want versus what is actually potentially possible out there for me. And one of the three guys I ended up having a bit of an adventure with, and he's the one that gave me the last piece of the puzzle I needed before I met my partner today. He's the one that gave me the piece of feeling worthy, because I realized, well, I guess I didn't realize at one point, I didn't realize I had a problem, was lack of self-worth, really feeling worthy of receiving the kind of love I was looking for in the relationship. So if you're not aligned with what you feel and what you think, you can't attract the right thing. So, and I talk about it in the book, this story actually, because he literally said, because we had connected from a very cerebral, emotional, like intelligent way. Like, we would go into these deep conversations, and he, at one point he was like, Chantal, he goes, you have to stop fishing at the bottom of the sea. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, what's at the bottom of the sea? He goes, it's all the bottom feeders. They're all eating the shit from the top of, the big fish on top. And he goes, you deserve to get this kind of fish. And it was like light over my head, Jesus, it's like, oh my God, you're so right. So I wasn't allowing myself to receive this potential. Like, there was a blockage for me where I didn't feel deserving of that level. And from that moment on, it's like I ended the relationship because he was in a compromised relationship. So I was like, here I am being a number two. I'm not going to settle for this. I'm actually eating at the bottom of the sea. But he did me the biggest favor ever and brought me the most beautiful gift. So,
Wow. Yeah. And I think it's important to look at what previous relationships brought us.
mhm,
You can look at it two ways as well. If you're always repeating the same mistakes, maybe life is trying to send you a lesson and you're just
exactly.
ignoring it. So you will
Yes.
receive it until you
You
wake up
understand
and
it and wake up. Yes.
get a clue. It's also, I want to come back on red flags after, because you mentioned that, and I think that we, like, especially at our age, we see them and we still choose to ignore them because when you're in it, you're like,
Mhm.
but it's so nice right now.
Yeah.
Why would I pay attention to that red flag? I'm probably wrong. So why do we do that?
Well, okay, so I love this. And this is the biggest it actually the start of the book is all about this stuff. So one of the things that I noticed as I was writing and doing my research for this was that not only are we in love with the idea of being in love, but we think we know what we want. And we often focus on the partner perspective of things. I want him to be like this. I want her to be like that, funny, financially well off, well traveled, blah, blah. We never think about the actual relationship. And we typically want stuff that's very self absorbed. It's very me, 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 me. And being in a relationship is not about you, it's about us. So, having a vision of how you want to grow and evolve in a relationship is really important. And I talk about this method that I developed that's called the eagle eye vision. The eagle eye vision is like, humans, we have a 20/20 vision, and eagle is 24/7. So we see the bigger picture around us. So the clearer you are on that vision and what really matters to you, the less you will compromise yourself when you go into the dating scene and get caught up in the lust, the sexiness, the fire, the excitement of someone new, because you will really hold on to, nope, I've learned from this. This really matters to me. And it's important to understand the difference between wants and needs. Wants, again, as I said, it was self absorbed, it's typically superficial. I want him to be 6'4". I want her to cook. I want him to, be financially well off. Sure, great. But what do you need? And what do you need to grow and evolve in that relationship? So, for example, in my case, I had decided like I needed someone that was very secure. I worked in the wine business. I was out all the time entertaining, in a male dominated industry. So I couldn't be with someone that would feel insecure, jealous, possessive. And I needed to be okay with someone that was fine with me having my freedom. I'm a butterfly. Like I like to do what I want when I want and go, do my weekend trips with my girls. So I needed someone that could be safe enough and secure enough in who they were to let me be that person. I wanted to be with someone that would accept my big personality and then think that I was intimidating, because I heard that all my life. So I would
You're too
minimize
much.
myself. Yeah.
You heard
But
that?
yeah, oh yeah. Yes. And too demanding and to this and to that. So what happens is that why would you want to be in a relationship with someone that doesn't accept you for who you are? Today, I mean, my man loves my big personality. He thrives on it, right? So you need to think about these things and what do I need to grow and evolve in a relationship. And it's a massive self-reflective exercise that doesn't happen in a week or 24 hours. And that's why I say, if as you're working with it and you date, you get to observe yourself and practice the skills if you've done the work of understanding what were your patterns and why you keep doing the same thing. So for me, in my case, I kept repeating the same thing: unemotional available man, unemotional available man. I needed to understand why I was doing that. So once you understand what your problem is, you can find the solution. When you don't have enough self-awareness and you don't know why you're acting, or you're not asking yourself the proper questions, you can't figure out the solution to the problem. So that's why I talk a lot about self-awareness in the book as well. So vision. So the clearer you are on that vision, this will be, it's like the roadmap to when you're dating. and you will flush out all the crap. Because here's the other thing: if you honor yourself and you love yourself enough, and we talk a lot about self-love, right? You will hold yourself to high standards in your dating journey, not to compromise and ignore the red flags. Like, enough of this, I'll change, or it's okay, or I'll forgive it. No. So it's kind of like this full circle. So it takes a lot of strength, a lot of self-love, because you have to have enough respect to really honor your truth, stay in your authentic personality. This is what I need. And I know that I need this. And that's why it's important to understand the difference between the two. And maybe I can give an example that people will relate to. So on my list of things that I needed and wanted, it was almost like a deal breaker, because a need is like a deal breaker. It's like air. It's like breath. You can't live without it. And for some people, it might be somebody that smokes or not, right? So one of my deal breakers that I thought I had was someone that would dance. I wanted to be with someone that knew how to dance, because it's, such a big hobby of mine. I love it. I thrive. It makes me happy, blah, blah, blah. Of course, I meet my man, poor guy. First question I ask is like, do you dance? And he's like, no, I'm known to having 2 left feet. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And I was like, do you have rhythm? And he's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, okay, have a little shoulder roll something. And he's like, no, nothing. And I remember I was devastated. I was just like, oh my God. But because I had done these exercise of those values that really mattered, and how he ended up showing up in other ways, so including support. Chantal, you want to go out dancing with your girls? You want to go to a thing? I'll take you. Go for it. We're at a wedding. I want one dance. Let me have 4 shots of tequila and I'll give you one dance. That's it, So what I thought was a need is not how it's going to help me grow and evolve in my relationship. It was the support. It was him honoring my need of things that I love and saying, here you go. Like, he accepts that I love that, and he will support me in any given way that he can to put me in that position without him. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. It makes total sense. So I have a question that is very sideline here, but how long did it take you to know that he was the one?
So funny enough, and I love that you asked me that question, because we typically know, especially as women, our instincts are so strong, but as you said, we choose to ignore that little voice inside. And when we had our first date, I would always know if it was a yes or no. But that day I left, and I couldn't get a yes or no. It's like the energy was floating. So I finally came to understand it was just telling me, get to know him. Get to know him. It can be if you choose to. And we were doing things, well, I had chosen to do things very differently from everything else. I wasn't looking for fireworks. I wasn't looking for excitement and butterflies. I wanted to get to know someone that was nice, that was solid, that had their shit together. Like, those were values that I had, decided that I wanted. And he was on the brake pedal, like very, very slow. And I think that really transformed. It was a mature way of dating for the first time in my life. Like, I had never actually experienced that. And I would say, when I look back today, the beautiful thing, and that's why I'm really trying to teach this stuff from a different perspective. I'm more in love today, 5 years into the relationship, than I was the first year or second, because we've grown into developing things that take time, where my heart is so open. I feel so safe, like I never thought I would experience ever in my life. I feel so supported. I feel I can be whoever the hell I want to be, and never have to question or look behind me and see, she's like this, she's doing that. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? So I can literally be my authentic self. And it's the most beautiful place to be. And
I think I think you said it right there, to be able to be authentic. And we overuse that word because I feel we overuse it.
Yes, I agree.
because not everyone really knows what the definition is. And,
Yeah.
there's sometimes that I just want to be sarcastic and say, do you really know the definition of that word? But
Yes.
when someone really let you be authentic, that's probably the biggest gift. And I'm saying let you, but it's not really let you. It's when you're able to let yourself be authentic. I think that right there you really nail a big part of being with someone.
1,000%. And I would say I was 44 when I met him. I had never been my authentic self all of my life. And I was doing this stuff. So when you say that we use the words, it's all that spirituality and that it's like we use it, we don't apply it. And that's at one point, that was my lesson. It was like, stop consuming, stop consuming. You need to do the work and actually apply it. And so that was one of the things I had decided is that I am going to be my true authentic self. It doesn't matter. Like, I want to be with someone that can handle all of the great and all of the bad that I have. So yes, and it's a it's the most peaceful feeling I ever experienced. So yes, ask yourself, what is my authentic self and who am I? And that's why, again, it goes back to that self-awareness piece. Like, I know myself so well. I know how I react, why I react. I can tell, like, ahead of anything that's the train wreck that's about to happen, why it's actually happening. And it's a very powerful place to be in.
I bet. And the thing is, like, that's where you can find long lasting anything. It's when
Exactly.
it's when you're yourself.
And
Because
I
I know
with
that, sometimes we like the person we are with someone, but I think that even just saying that is like, well, shouldn't you always be this person? Or
Yeah,
shouldn't, you shouldn't be a different person when you're around different people. You should always be yourself. So
be yourself. And being yourself will elevate the quality of all of your relationships, not just romantic relationships. I it's transformed all of my environment, how I work with clients, everything, because I stick to my authentic self. So very, yeah, important.
powerful. Chantal, where can we find your book?
So the best place to actually go and link to see everywhere it's available is on my website at www.raiseyourlovesignal.com. It's available on Amazon, on Indigo, and all the different platforms available, but you'll see the links on my website. And if people want to interact with me, follow me, my platform that I'm the most active on social media is Instagram, which is my name, at Chantal.Landreville. Of course, Facebook, TikTok, and LinkedIn, but I have the most fun right now on Instagram.
Awesome. And I will put all of Chantal's information with the podcast. So don't worry if you didn't catch it right away. Just go see the little text with the podcast. Chantal, it was such a pleasure having you. And I can't wait to read your book, but especially the one coming, like How to Last. And
I
I
know,
think
right?
I want to read it all. So yes, maybe I'll get stronger in that field.
Well, I tell people all the time, prepare your toolbox before. We typically wait till shit hits the fan to go get and ask help. Do this kind of work before. Learn this stuff and put it into practice before you start your relationship, because then you have a solid foundation and you're set up. It's kind of like when it's like the first aid kit, right? If you cut yourself and you have a first aid kit, you go to the first aid kit and you know how to manage a situation. But if you don't have the first aid kit, you're panicking, you don't know what to do, you could be bleeding everywhere. So prepare your toolbox, and it's such a great asset. I want to add that.
That's awesome. And I wanted to say, like, what do you want to leave people with? But I think that it's a beautiful closing. But do you have anything else that you want to leave people with?
Love is possible, healthy love is possible, but how willing are you to transform your way of thinking to actually have it?
Yes, because it is work, and that, like, let's not hide it. It is work.
It is work. And I know a lot of people are afraid of work, but it's more like the investment and what kind of quality do you want? And we work in our relationship every single day. And I think people diminish the work that's available in relationship because we work in every other area of our lives to achieve a goal, to become great, to get a result, right? So most people get lazy in relationship and the work starts there. Like you just need to deliver as you would in a full-time job every day. You need to show up. So
Yeah, and not just navigate internet.
yeah. Yes.
That goes for both, actually. Love and
Exactly.
work.
Everything, yes.
Chantal Landreville, it was such a pleasure having you on. I really want you to come back when your other book will come out. I wish you the best with,
Thank you.
your book and everything else, and in your relationship.
Thank
And
you.
to everyone who was here this week, thank you so much. I will see you next week. And Chantal, have a beautiful week.
Thank you. Merci.
Bienvenue.